So I'm Tawny Brunch. I'm the executive director of Lakota Funds, but I'm also the founding board chair for Lakota Federal Credit Union. Back in those days, there was just a handful of businesses. That was due in part to their lack of access to credit. There was no bank here. For the most part, the tribal members on Pine Ridge are invisible, and given, yes, that was 35 years ago, but still not much incentive to address the needs of, especially around capital and credit. I think that was a pretty new discussion in those days. I actually got to interview with President Clinton last year because and it was under the Clinton Foundation that I was invited to visit with him, but it was really under his administration that the Department of Treasury's CDFIs were being lifted up, right? And that's all about access to credit and the asset building work that needs to be done in these underserved communities. And of course, the Native communities are, among those. That came after Rebecca Adamson with the First Nations Institute had been working with the grassroots, the local organizers here at Lakota Funds to stand us up as a Native CDFI. And so Native Community Development Financial Institution and Lakota Funds was the first one to achieve that status, then becoming a certified Native CDFI. The whole community realized that it was needed, that in order to do things like start a business or maybe expand a certain business, there's a lot of underground economy that has gone on here always, just cash, whether it's artists selling beadwork or mechanics operating out of their garage and stuff. There's always been that underground economy, but in some ways with the formation of Lakota Funds and providing that access to business loan capital, it kind of formalized us. And the truth is, there's still that underground economy, because even if Lakota Funds has been doing a lot in the last 35 years, I think we've deployed it up to like 15 million, which sounds like a drop in the bucket. I give you that, but $15 million in business loan capital and assisted with the creation or expansion of like 1,200 businesses over 35 years. It's still, there's a lot of that underground cash economy that still exists. And that's partly because of the fact that until Lakota Federal Credit Union was chartered, there was not a single bank, federally insured financial institution depository on the Pine Ridge Reservation. I was blown away, to be honest, when I first came to Lakota Funds in 2008. I came from Black Hills Federal Credit Union, where I was the branch manager, the lead lender, the everything in a very small community in Wall, South Dakota. And just loved Black Hills Federal and really believed in that philosophy, people helping people. And I thought a credit union is different enough than a bank because it is member owned, and not to make some bank board members, owners wealthy. It's for the benefit of those own people, those own account holders. And so I thought it was a good fit. In typical Lakota Funds fashion, it feels like we're the ones who have to do everything, which is kind of the way we like it, because we usually do it right, and so we have lots of experience in doing it. But it was really Del Caselli-Smith's idea. He was the former executive director when I came on of Lakota Funds. He said, "You realize that we could start one of these on our own." After I got over the shock of it, and you called the NCUA and you look,
What is the
the National Credit Union Administration, right? You look up online how to start a credit union, and it directs you to the Federation. It was called the Federation of Small Community Development Credit Unions. You order the manual, and it's about that thick. And it's pretty doable, right? So I'm looking through it and stuff, and the best part about it is not only did it seem like, yes, we could get this done, there was such a need here. I mean, to be trying to do business loans in a community that didn't have access to savings accounts, even at the very least savings accounts, it seemed ridiculous.
Yeah.
We're asking our business owners to be responsible for tracking their income and their expenses and having a separate checking account to help them keep track of how that business is doing separately. And yet we had no bank here to offer that for our tribal members. And so we said yes, then no one else is going to do it. The tribe had been working on it for 3 or 4 years, and they weren't going to get it done. So we started on that road and formed the Lakota Federal Credit Union Steering Committee in 2010. Took us 2.5 years to get the NCUA charter then. That's the NCUA saying, yes, your charter has been approved, can open your doors. We're 9 years old, but do you know in those 9 years, the credit union actually has almost as many assets as Lakota Funds does in 35 years. Credit union's now over 10 million in assets. One of the things is I think that points out the difference between a conforming, federally regulated, federally insured institution being Lakota Federal Credit Union because it's insured and regulated by the NCUA, and the difference between your native CDFI. As a native CDFI, that we need to be flexible enough to create many times the types of loan products and the terms and the interest rates and the conditions to serve these low-income tribal communities, native communities. And so it's by design that we're less regulated on the native CDFI for Lakota Fund side, and we're more regulated as a depository institution for the credit union. But the other reason the credit union has probably, quickly almost met Lakota Funds in asset size is the fact that the credit union is low income designated. That's a status approved by the NCUA, and especially in areas where you're serving a low-income community, so that we're able to take deposits from anyone. You don't have to qualify for membership. So I can take even though the credit union was created to serve only those people who live, work, worship, attend school, or volunteer on the Pine Ridge Reservation, it's meant to serve this community. Because we have that low income designated status, I can take a deposit from Hawaii. So they knew it was going to be important to keep those deposits coming in, because those deposits are the credit union's loan capital. But I think that's why it's been such a good fit to have Lakota Funds as the native CDFI, 35 years old, to benefit the credit union through the relationships that we have. Because in 35 years, right, we have a lot of relationships, and I'll say that the native CDFI industry is like a tight-knit family. Basically, we're all here to support each other. We have a lot of best practices. We're happy to share policies and, what not to do and just the different things. But we're also, it turns out, very willing to support each other with deposits. So but some of the deposits that the credit union has gotten over the course of the last few years has been from other native CDFIs. We're offering the same services others do. So it's auto loans, it's signature loans, which are the unsecured, and then just the regular revolving lines of credit. But then just recently it is the home mortgage lending, because there's such a huge demand for home ownership here. For housing, period, but a lot of that can be achieved through home ownership. And we have tribal members that are just now, to the point, where they're able to think about home ownership. That it's nice that we offer everything that family could need to help them achieve that. So you can get the home mortgage loan through the credit union, but before you even start that process, you'll be working with Lakota Funds, because we do the asset development work. We're a HUD certified housing counselor. We do the budget and credit coaching. And Lakota Funds also offers the match savings accounts, which can help families with down payment assistance. The match savings accounts are huge, actually, just because there's such a need, because we are lower income, but we're in an income bracket where we can afford a home, a reasonably priced home. If you're building, we'll help work with you to make sure that we keep costs under control. But mostly because of that income level, the lower income levels, there's always going to be a big need for down payment assistance. The high cost of construction. Look what materials have done, over this last year. And we've always had the higher cost just because we're in the middle of nowhere. We're 120 miles from Rapid City, one way. And so we've always had those higher costs. And so no matter what you do, if you're going to have to build your home, even if you need a foundation for a double wide, which is what a lot of people have to do, you're going to have a much more expense in the home just in that construction phase. Upwards of 150 to 200,000 easily. And so for a lower income family, maybe a middle income, a lower middle income family who, yes, could make it work, we're seeing the need for $30,000-$40,000 worth of subsidy and down payment assistance. The match savings accounts I love because it's not just giving families the money. We first of all control all the proceeds, so it's made to the lender once the loan has been approved. And typically the match savings are a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. For our veterans, we do 3.5-to-1, where every dollar they deposit, then we'll match it with, in the case of our Native American veterans, for every 1,000 they deposit, we'll deposit 3,500. 4 out of the 5 of my staff are all tribal members from here. The same with the credit union. The credit union now has 9 staff. They're all from here. Some of them went to school across the street at Little Wound. Part of the benefit of that is the fact that through your relationships, not only are you easier to work with in getting the loan approved, but also when it comes to collections, part of it is the relationship that maybe the loan doesn't go bad in the first place, but then also the fact that if you're collecting, that you also have that relationship to be able to better collect. The delinquency at Lakota Federal Credit Union is rarely over 4%. It takes the risk out of lending here when you're using those of us who are from here. We talk about the need for more loan capital and how difficult it is to get some of the bigger, to have access to the secondary market through the Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Mac's and all of this, because they don't want to take the risk. One of the first questions is usually about foreclosure. What are the foreclosure rates? And I'm going, well, I happen to be lucky enough to be on the board of a native CDFI here on Pine Ridge that does mortgage lending, and in the 25 years that they've existed, they've only had to go to court one time. I feel really good about the products that the credit union offers currently. It's just a matter of probably increasing the limits, because as much as people like to talk about, the poverty rates and stuff on Pine Ridge, even if it is high, yes, if it's 40-some% or whatever, well, that means about 60% of those families living on Pine Ridge are not in poverty, and they need more access. And so in my mind, that translates to higher limits on auto loans, higher limits on our mortgage lending, so that we can meet all of those needs. And the same with Lakota funds. Loan capital, that's always what we need. So we've got lakotafcu.org is the credit union's website. Lakota Funds with an S.org is Lakota Funds website. And so to make a deposit at the credit union, everything actually can be done online. And so if you go to our website, there's a member application there and a phone number. You can call, Shana Ferguson is the longtime branch manager, and she'll talk you through the process, or you could just do it online with an online application. I can't think of a better way to support Indian country, to support the Pine Ridge, the work going on the Pine Ridge Reservation, than to support us, because we're making that access to credit possible, either through Lakota Funds for business loans or for the consumer loans, including home mortgages now through the credit union. And it's through those things that our tribal members here are going to reap the most benefit. Through businesses or home ownership. We offer a credit card now, a really good looking credit card. Get it because it's pretty.